Hello, today I'm going to show you how to feed your sourdough starter. So you've already baked a loaf, or you are looking to just feed it to keep it active, but you're not ready to bake yet. Totally fine. So what you want to do is you're going to discard, if you have not used some already to make a loaf, this is going to be known as your discard. So it's not active, it's not been fed for maybe a day or two or three, and you just need to feed it so that you can keep it alive and active. So the reason you discard is because if you just keep putting flour and water in here, you're gonna explode out of this jar. You will not have room. I've had it, this one actually already exploded out of the jar because I didn't take enough out before feeding it. So all I do, and I just use this to make a loaf, so there's plenty of room in here. I dumped out about 200 grams of starter. So I have plenty in here, so much. Some people will grab a whole new jar. They'll say you add this much starter and then you feed it. I don't even do that. I just keep the same jar for a while. Eventually I'll switch out to a new jar, give it a fresh home. But I don't keep a super consistent amount of starter left in here always. Sometimes it ebbs and flows. It doesn't matter. I usually just always feed it 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour, so that I am always guaranteed to have the 200 grams I want to make a loaf. Everything else gets dumped into a jar that I place in my fridge, and you can use that for things like pancakes, waffles, pizza crusts, or sourdough tortillas, banana bread. Your discard recipes are endless, so that's where you don't waste it. Don't just dump it in the garbage. Please don't dump it down your drain because it will dry hard, it will harden, and it will harden in your pipes. I recently found something that someone shared, and they're like, don't do this. A plumber's worst nightmare. Like, you don't, because look at this, it's like, it's like chips. Cake's on. So, where am I? This is going to be the portion where we're going to feed it. So, you already baked with it, or you already dumped out, I don't know, 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup. Eyeball it just so you have enough in here that it can feed off of. You don't want to get rid of all your starter. You need to be able to feed it to feed off of that, okay? So then you're going to grab your scale, your kitchen scale, place your jar on there and turn it on, okay? Then you're gonna grab lukewarm water, and I'm just gonna do the 100 grams here. Sometimes if you're like, I just wanna feed it, but I don't wanna give it all that flour, just give it 50 grams, 70 grams. As long as it's 1-to-1 ratio and you aren't using it all up when you need to come and bake, and you know that you're gonna have enough left over, like, you just play around with it. Just don't end up dumping it all into a recipe, because then you won't have any starter. So I'm gonna add 100 grams of lukewarm water to my jar. Okay, and then I'm gonna hit tare, and that brings it back to 0. Make sure you're on a nice flat surface. And I'm gonna grab my unbleached organic flour. Okay, I love to use these cute little protein powder packages. They come with scoopers or like whatever else you might buy. They are great multi-purpose. So I keep it in my flour container. You can buy organic unbleached flour from online. You can get it at Costco, Pick and Save, Woodman's. Just don't get one that's bleached. I had someone who reached out once and said that her starter was not happy because she failed to realize that the bag she got from Aldi was bleached. So we just don't want those chemicals in here. So we're gonna then match that 100 grams of water, use my cute scooper, with 100 grams of flour. Okay, we're gonna pop that in there. All right, it's not always perfect spot on, but it's okay. And if you feel like it just needs a little more oomph to it, or it looks a little runny, add 10-15 extra grams of flour than water. It gives it a little more flour to feed off of. So then what I'm gonna do is I take a wooden spatula. I prefer to use wood. You could use silicone, whatever, sturdy. You need a little sturdiness. And you're just gonna blend it all in, mix it on up. And it's gonna get very like pasty, okay, and clumpy. It's okay, you don't have to work out all the clumps. They work themselves out, okay? So if your starter has been on your counter and is at room temp and you have been faithful with it feeding and baking with it, it should rise. You should start seeing rising. Some people will put rubber bands on their jars to see the growth that has happened. This one might explode out actually. This is a little full. If it's more than halfway full, we're gonna have a problem, but that's okay. So we are mixing it up, and then I just kind of wipe it off, and you're gonna see growth within 4 to 6 hours of it probably already doubled. Now, if it's colder out and you haven't fed it for a while, or just the weather, it just crazy changed. I've had it before, it's wild. It just might take a little bit longer, okay? If you're pulling it out from the fridge, sometimes you have to let it come to room temperature. Mine had to come to room temperature for almost a day before I actually saw some, excuse me, I had to hit my baby monitor. My baby's waking up. Before I saw growth. So there is that. So I'm going to pop the lid on. Some people do like a little bonnet on top, whatever floats your boat. I have always just used lids. And I'm going to keep that either in my cupboard or right on my counter, kind of in a darker place. If you do pop this in your fridge, it will take probably 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours, depends on how faithful you again have been with feeding it. And that is how you feed your sourdough starter. Then when I'm ready to bake, I typically will try to be like, okay, if I'm going to bake a loaf for the next day, I want to feed this in the morning, so that by that evening, so this is the morning, so this is going to rise, and I will be able to use it tonight around 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and I can use 200 grams of it for my personal recipe. I will dump it all out into my loaf that I'm going to make and let it rise overnight, and then I can bake it in the morning. So if you like to do that method, feed it in the morning, bake it, use it at night to make your loaf, and then you can bake in the morning of the next day. If you know that you want to whip up a loaf early the next morning, make sure this is fed and it can feed on itself overnight, so that in the morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you can make a loaf quick, whip it up. It can be sitting and ready for you when you get home from work or whatever, late afternoon. And you can have a late evening bake. You might not have it ready for dinner, I'm not sure. It all depends, again, on rising times, and play around with it. I've baked loaves as early as 8 hours. I've baked them as late as 16 hours. It all depends. So this, I just wanted to show you how to feed your starter. Again, there's so many different methods out there. This is just what has worked for me, and I hope that it has helped you answer your questions. And yeah, I completely just made a mess all around me. But any questions, you know how to get in touch with me. All right, happy baking.